Welcome to the Grants Portal webinar series presented by FEMA's Public Assistance Training Section. This webinar will be on Public Assistance Management Cost, which is also called CAT-Z. We're going to walk you through a bit of the Streamlined project application process. So we have a couple slides to explain what management cost is, and then we will do some demo work. Like I just said, we're going to describe management cost, again, category Z. I'm going to try to talk about what a category Z project is and its importance, and then produce the Streamlined Category Z project in Grants Portal. If you are unfamiliar with what those terms are, hopefully the next couple slides will help break it down for you. Start with some common terminology. We know FEMA uses a lot of acronyms and words and phrases that unless you are told what they mean, there's a good chance you have no idea what they mean. And I guess I can only say that because I am speaking from experience. So I'm going to start basic. We've got recipient and applicant. A recipient is your state, tribe, or territory that receive and administer public assistance federal award. How it works is it's the recipient that applies to FEMA, and then under the recipient we have applicants. So our applicants are state, local, or tribal or territorial governments or private nonprofit entities that may request and receive subawards under a recipient's award. So I'm going to say private nonprofit. If you hear the acronym PNP, that's what that means. And again, recipient applies to FEMA, but then FEMA works with the applicants. So if you're a direct applicant, it's when you, the applicant, are able to create your own organization in Grants Portal, submit your own request for public assistance, which is also known as an RPA, and then create your streamlined project application. This is done without the recipient having to create your organization first or having to be assigned a PDMG. A PDMG is a Program Delivery Manager. Program Delivery Manager's role in FEMA is to kind of walk the applicant through the grant process. However, this direct applicant process allows the applicant to kind of be in control of your own recovery more. It's designed to help expedite the process. All of this direct applicant work is done in Grants Portal, and that's our online grant platform used by the recipients and applicants to manage your grants. We're going to be using our demo site to kind of show you a couple different ways of doing things. One of the things we're going to show you is a project. A project is a grouping of activities that become a subaward under the recipient's award once approved. We're going to specifically show you one of the streamlined project applications. That's kind of tied to that direct applicant. Streamlined project application enables the applicant with certain categories of activities to submit your project directly without FEMA or recipient staff. It reduces the documentation requirement for projects that are below the small project threshold. Certain categories, there's currently 3 categories that you can submit a streamlined project application for. It started with COVID, which is a category B, emergency protective measures. We then expanded past just a COVID project to include all Category B emergency protective measures, since we know the pandemic response is different from our traditional sandbagging and running of an emergency operations center. You can do a Category A, which is a debris removal, and then finally you can do this Category Z management cost. All right, so that was all kind of an introduction to the terms. We're now going to dive deeper into management cost. So what are management costs? As defined by FEMA, they are public assistance management cost, including any of the following when associated with the PA portion of a major disaster emergency, and that's indirect cost, direct administrative cost, and other administrative expenses associated with a specific project. Breaking those down even further, so indirect costs. Those are costs incurred from a common or joint purpose, which could benefit more than one cost objective that is not assignable to a specific cost objective benefited. Which, that's a lot of words. Break it down to kind of more real life examples. Sometimes work that an applicant does applies to more than one specific project because FEMA pays out based on projects. That was that projects and subawards definition we went over. So things like the applicant briefing, your recovery scoping meeting, and your recovery transition meeting are all multiple project events. Same with your PDAs, your preliminary damage assessments. Those even happen before you have the disaster declaration. And then general travel expenses that can't be tied directly to one specific project. So your indirect costs, think of those are overarching things instead of something specific. Be like, oh, I specifically sat down with my PDMG and we went over labor cost for my category A work, because that's clearly tied to a project. So administrative costs, another part of our management costs, are expenses incurred by a recipient or a subrecipient in managing and administrating the federal award to ensure that federal, state, or tribal requirements are met. This includes development and review and processing of projects, technical assistance, whether that's developing, reviewing, and processing projects again, our quarterly progress and fiscal reporting, and records retention. Continuing with that, any technical monitoring, compliance activities, any documentation for quality of work verification for quarterly reports and closeout, payments of claims, and then closeout review. Something nice about management costs, our category Z, is that the cost share does not apply to it. If you are unfamiliar with how public assistance works, a normal project is paid on a 75-25% cost share. FEMA will always cover that 75%. In extenuating circumstances, FEMA will sometimes cover more of that. However, on a regular run-of-the-mill event, that 25% is going to be the applicant's responsibility. Some recipients help out. They might pay half of it, 10%, all of it. Some recipients pay none of it. So that 25% is always the applicant's responsibility. For management cost projects, though, FEMA pays 100% of the eligible cost. So you don't have to worry about that 75% split. The way the costs break down is recipients. Again, those are a state, tribe, or territories, and it's tribal nations if they're applying as a recipient. Tribes can also apply as a subrecipient under states. So for our recipients, FEMA provides PA funding for management cost based on actual cost, up to 70% of the total award amount. And then for subrecipients, it's 5% of the subrecipient's total award amount. So after all of your grants have been processed, your damages have been claimed and grouped into projects and sent to the CRC, which is the Consolidated Resource Center. They have damage description and dimension, a scope of work, and a cost. All of that's been done. They add up all of those, and you can get funding based off 5% of that. So there are some non-eligible management costs. Any activities that are directly related to a project are not eligible under management cost. Architectural, engineering, and design services, those would be considered project cost and not a management cost. Related to that, construction management activities that manage, coordinate, and supervise, those are again would be a project cost. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the Streamlined management cost in Grants portal. There are certain documentations that you need to capture under management cost. Everything we do is backed up by some law or statute or regulation. This one happens to be the Code of Federal Regulations, Part 200, so 2 CFR 200. If you really want to go ahead and look it up, if you like to bore yourself to death, that's where you can find some information on management cost. And based on that, the documentation for a management cost project must include a description of activities, personnel requirements, and other costs. The documentation provided is what FEMA will use to determine if costs are reasonable and will support any necessary management activities through the period of performance. Basically, what they're saying is you need to be able to back up your claim. Some more documentation requirements. It must include the information necessary to demonstrate eligibility for all of the costs and activities claimed. This includes things like payroll data, your procurement procedures, contracts, invoices, and an explanation of activities. FEMA gets to make the final decision regarding all eligibility determinations, and that includes whether costs are reasonable. Some things that can and should be included in your documentation is the explanation of specific tasks, numbers and hours, rate,
title or position,
materials or supplies used, numbers and purpose of meetings, if you are traveling, the purpose of your travel, and any travel policies your organization has. And if you're claiming training, they want to know where it was, why you needed it, things like that. A couple slides, we're going to talk about some of the FEMA forms that exist that kind of help you capture this information. You never have to use these specific forms, but they're good as a guide. I have a different form or a different system that captures all this information. That's fine, but it will help break down what you need. So again, like I said, FEMA gets to make the final decision regarding eligibility, and that includes whether costs are reasonable. FEMA will accept the required information in any format. So like I said, so you can use our FEMA generated templates, or you can use your own. Like there's some people that are super fancy and they're like, oh, I can go to HR and they will go boop, 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 boop in their computer and print us out a nice form with all the information. So you don't have to use our forms. However, if you want to, we're going to go over 2 ways right now that you can find that information so you can capture it. And you see, this is FEMA.gov, FEMA.gov. They just did a rebrand, so it looks a little different if you were on it, maybe like a month or 2 ago. The only thing that's really going to change now is that you get to meet a new person, I think, once a week. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in just a little so you can see the search bar a little more clearly. So once you're on FEMA.gov, what you're going to do is you can search Public Assistance Project Worksheets. So again, that was Public Assistance Project Worksheets. And it should be this first link right here. There we go. I'm going to click on that. And then scroll down just a little. And you see there's a couple forms right here. We're looking for the forms. There we go. The like 0900 series. So things like the force account labor summary, material summary, and rented equipment, contract work, force account, applicant's benefits calculation worksheet, also known as fringe benefits. This is where you can find the documents, and you would just go ahead and hit download document. Depending on your internet browser, it might download it into a PDF. Mine popped it into another browser. We're going to talk about these in a second. I'm going to first go into the other way that you can download these forms, and that's in Grants Portal. So again, this is our demonstration site. It's made to mirror how a Grants Portal Live looks, but has fake names, fake projects, so that we're not messing with anything real. Okay, sign in, accept, and accept. Did I get yes? It's a little embarrassing. Like sometimes I'm like, oh man, what if I didn't get my password right? All right, again, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more and show you another way that you can get these forms. Again, so the first one was FEMA.gov. The second one is in Grants Portal. So you're going to open the support center. If you've never done that before, it's this question mark right here. And again, it's going to open a new tab. And then we can go to resources. Open the new tab and then click on forms. And if we look right there, this is how you can get to the forms that other way. Clicking on that, it brings us to FEMA.gov where we can find the form. So if you don't remember how to get to FEMA.gov and how to search, you can always follow Grants Portal by going to Resources, Forms, and then Collection of PA Worksheets. That first document I mentioned is our Force Account Labor Summary. FEMA uses the term Force Account to mean applicants' own employees. Again, FEMA likes to use our own words, so we use Force Account. We reimburse based on actual hourly rates plus the employee's actual fringe benefits. Fringe benefits are all of your other things that go into your pay, your holidays, workman's comp, Social Security, all those extra things. Emergency work, those have certain work eligibility and cost eligibility. I recommend you check out the PAPA G, the Public Assistance Program and Policy Guide, to understand what FEMA can and can't reimburse for certain employees. And that's for emergency work, which is Category A debris, and Category B emergency protective measures. Here's an example of one of the forms. You're going to find that most of the forms look pretty similar, which is nice. So this is our force account labor summary. It has, this header up at the top, applicant, your PAID, which you can find in Grants Portal if you don't know offhand, your project number, which when you're filling this out, you may not know because if you haven't created your Category Z project yet and you're filling these out beforehand, that's fine. Location and site, the description of the work performed, what were you doing? And then as you go down the side here, the name and the job title. They want to know when they were working, the regular hours they worked, and the overtime.
The next couple columns are different totals, where eventually come to that last column, which is total costs.
Material summary, if you look, it looks very similar. It has that same header, applicant, PAID, project number, description of work performed, but then it wants to know some slightly different information. Like the vendor, that first column on the left, where did the materials come from? What were the materials? How much you used? Unit price, total price. That last two columns, you check one, invoice versus stock. Did you have these already and you were just using them? Did you already have a large supply of computer paper and you got them from your stock, or did you have to run to Office Max and buy a bunch of computer paper so you have an invoice? Whatever it is, you'd fill that out. One more to kind of give you a little taste of this, we do have a series on these forms or on our YouTube channel. So if you need a little bit more deep explanation of how to fill them out, you can check that out. But if you see this force account equipment summary form is set up basically exactly the same as the other two. We've got our header, starts with applicant, ends with the description of work performed. The thing that changed is this first column. The type of equipment, was it a truck? And again, truck maybe not necessarily fit. Management cost, but that's always what I think of. So whatever equipment you needed, it gives that note to indicate size, capacity, horsepower, make, and model, because we have what's called the
schedule of equipment rates.
And using a pickup truck is very different from using a dump truck, but using a small dump truck versus those huge dump trucks, those are all different, and you don't want to be reimbursed for this cost of a small little pickup truck when really what you meant was a large dump truck. And the more information like that you can give, the better we can fill these form out and the better it can get costed. That operator's name, that kind of middle column, if somebody is using it, they want to know, and that person should also then match up if you're claiming a force account labor summary. If John Smith is listed as an operator's name, we should probably see John Smith's time. And then the rest of it matches the other force account sheet we looked at. Next, we're going to take a look at what does the application look like. To start, as subrecipients, you're only going to submit one Category Z port-to-cloud event. The system doesn't even let you submit more than one, so you don't have to worry about that. If you do need to submit additional cost, it can be versioned and amended, or you can work with your recipient during closeout. The Streamlined project applications are broken down into sections, schedules, and surveys. If you've done any of the other Streamlined project applications, they're going to look pretty familiar. So Section 1, project application information, that's just some basic information that you provide. Section 2 is our scope of work, description of activities and locations. And then section 3 is going to be our cost and work status information. That's going to tell us, is it a small or a large project? And is it like work completed or work to be completed? So then we get into our schedules. Again, schedule B and D are pretty much the same. Schedule B is for completed work. It's going to be filled out if you don't request an initial obligation. That means you want to be funded on actuals, and it's our project costs and cost eligibility, and it has our deductions. So that's when we look for like insurance coverage, and very similar to our Schedule B if you're doing it for Category A or Category B. Our Schedule D is our activity-specific questions, and that's when it's going to want some specific information about our meetings or our trainings, just to back them up. And then we have Schedule F, which is our environmental and historic preservation. So EHP, certain activities, like this is the establishment of a temporary facilities, are EHP triggers. So they're going to look to make sure that all the permits were right, that you didn't put your temporary facility on top of a endangered species nesting site, things like that. Schedule G is going to be the only schedule that's different from our other two Streamlined, and those are for estimated costs. And that's if you want to be funded now and then have actual costs reconciled later. But they still have project costs and cost eligibility and deductions. So you're going to fill out B or G depending on what you choose.
I'm going to go ahead and jump into our grants portal demo site now.
I'm going to show you there's two ways to get into the project. The first is by going to our applicant event profile. So that's over here on our left-hand navigation side. You're going to click applicant event profiles. You're going to find the disaster that you're trying to do the Category Z for. I will say you might see more than one depending on if you've been impacted by a lot of public assistance declared events. But you're going to drill in by clicking that magnifying glass with a plus sign. All right, and then on this page, this applicant event profile page, you'll see you have two options to start. You can click up here, this big blue button that says Start Streamlined Project Application, or on our yellow banner, sometimes referred to as the yellow brick road, you can click Start Streamlined Project Application here. You do also have this View Pending Streamlined Project Applications button. So if you have ongoing projects, because we understand that people are busy, they don't always have the time to sit down and fill one out start to finish, you can come in and do it here. You can see this is our test one, and that's why there's a bunch of weird things going on. But I'm going to close that because these are all Category B, and we're here to talk Category Z. So the other way to submit a Streamlined project application is up here with that quick action lightning bolt. Clicking on that, you have three options. These two, you can view projects in progress. So that was one option. And what that did is over here, if we drop down filters, it made the process step in progress. So that's everything up until it's been obligated. If I scroll down, you can see I have a bunch of projects in process. What does that other option do? So I'm going to click on Quick Actions again and go to this View Obligated Projects. This one's really important. I'm going to drop down filters again. You see my process steps over here changed. I need to make sure that I have at least one obligated project because that's how I can submit my Category Z. It won't let you continue with a Category Z management cost project if you don't have a project obligated already. The button will be grayed out, but this is also a good way to check. All right, so finally, I'm going to click on this Submit a Project Application button. So I went my quick actions, and now I'm going to click this first option. I'm going to find my event again, and then continue. Now I have four options. These are the four types of Streamlined project applications that exist. The first is debris removal, and that's our Category A. We have our two Category B. One is pandemic, COVID-19 specific, The other one is our standard emergency protective measures activities conducted to address immediate threats to life, public health, or safety. And then finally, management cost. So if I didn't have one of those obligated projects, this would be grayed out and I couldn't click on it, but luckily I can. All right, so it brings us to our help page. You'll find that as you work your way through the Streamlined project applications, these you can kind of follow the same way. They all have that progress bar up at the top. This has a lot of good information, and I strongly recommend going through and reading all of it. I'm not going to read it right now. A good recommendation that I've heard, if you copy and paste this into a Word document, you can go back and refer to it at any time. Think that's a good idea. So go through, you read all of it, and then you would hit proceed. All right. Next, we start our sections. So section 1 is that project application information. You'll see this came up in red. The system is going to preset your management cost project to management cost. However, I had already used this as a test. We use the same account, so we went in, it already called it that, so I just need to change it. So I'm going to change it to management cost and then today's date. And that should change it. You can't have a project that has the same name. You also need to give it your applicant assigned project number. This can be alphanumeric. So I'm going to say cat Z and the date again. I don't know if I can make it that many. Nope. All right. So cat Z 1112. This information up at the top was already pre-filled. And then I have to certify, saying that I read it and then I agree. So I would click here, and then finally I get to create my Streamlined project application. Important to note that up until you click that button, you haven't actually created your Streamlined project application. Once you get to this page, you're good. So we have our section 1 up here, and that's able to be modified. We can go in and change it. But now we can talk about sections 2 and sections 3. So section 2 is a description of activities, including when, where, and by whom the activities were completed or will be completed by. And then section 3 is our cost and work status information. I'm going to go ahead and go into section 2, my scope of work. I clicked continue. I have this bar up here. So I have to give a brief project description. I recommend, or it has been recommended, and I'm sealing the recommendation, that you can go into a Word document and type it all out and then copy and paste it. You can also wait until you've read through the entire scope of work, so all of these check boxes, to fill it out. Open the Word document, start clicking all the things you've done, and you can kind of copy and paste it over into that. So we did PDAs, which are preliminary damage assessment, and exploratory calls, recovery scoping meetings, RTMs. You'll notice when I clicked there, it automatically clicked up top. We did prepare small and large projects, collected and copied. We didn't do any 406 hazard mitigation, so I'm not going to click that. We dispersed our funds, and we did training. So I could copy all of those and put them in. I already did that, so I'm going to go ahead and copy that out of my Word document, scroll back up, and put it in there. But I didn't actually do that, so I'm going to backspace out of it. Nice. Scroll down, I'm going to keep going, and it's going to please select the method of work the subrecipient used or will use to complete the activities. We didn't establish a temporary facility. We didn't repurpose, so we actually didn't do any of these. But if I did, so you notice right here it says I have to do Schedule D. If I hit here, one of these, that I have to complete Schedule F also fills out. That's our environmental and historic preservation one. All right, I'm going to hit proceed. I have to pick my location. Did I do it somewhere specific or jurisdiction wide? If I hit specific, it wants an address or Latin long. If I hit jurisdiction wide, it doesn't. Hit proceed again, and I get brought to a summary. You'll find as you're working through your Streamlined project applications, this is how a lot of them run. So I could give everything a read through. Yes, yes, yes. I hit done with section 2, and then I hit go to summary. Nice, I'm brought back to this summary page. Again, I start by looking at this section 1. If I scroll down, section 2 is complete, but I still need to do section 3. But if you look here, that schedule D has been added. I'm going to do section 3. It's going to flow the same way that section 2 did, where I hit continue. And then, does the subrecipient want to request an initial obligation of funding for management cost? That might be way over my head. I may not know what that means. Nice thing about Grants Portal is it really sets you up for success, where you can hover over little boxes like this, and it's going to give you some additional information. So what does that mean? FEMA will formulate a project up to 5% for the subrecipient and up to 7% for the recipients of the total award amount obligated at the time of this request. All management cost projects will be reconciled to actual reasonable cost upon receipt of a subrecipient's or recipient's final actual management cost claim. We went over that in the slides, but it's always good to reaffirm. So do we want to do that? Yes. They want to know the status of work completed. Activities are complete. I need a start and end date. It started, last month or so and ended about last week. Okay. And then, are they going to be over 1 million? What does that mean? More information. I click that up and it popped up and it's giving me some information on strategic funds management. I could read through that and get some more information. It's got an SOP link, but I'm just going to hit close and say no. All right, I have to fill out Schedule G this time. And so proceed. Brings me right to my summary. I'm good with that, and I hit done with section 3. Then go to summary.
You can see Schedule G has shown up.
I'm going to start with Schedule G just because I just clicked that one, and so go ahead and click on that. Again, I have that progress bar up at the top, and it's giving me some information on my initial budget estimate. Hit proceed, and then project costs and cost eligibility. If I changed an answer on section 2, I might be filling out Schedule B, but it would look very similar. I mean, it would actually look exactly the same, this project cost and cost eligibility. And the way it works is you can't type into here. You have to click which type of materials you use. So I would click contracts, and then I can type in the cost of contracts. If you use labor, again, that's your force account labor. It also includes mutual aid, prison labor, or the National Guard. You type that number into there too. And it's actually going to do the cost for you, which is nice because I'm not very good at math. I'm going to hit proceed. I could claim, keep going with these. Bringing me down the line, it brings me to deductions. It's like I said, insurance proceeds, always got to reduce. We don't want to duplicate any benefits. Disposition, if you're like, I don't know what that means, because I say that a lot with FEMA. Again, I can click on it and get some more information. However, there's probably a good chance management costs probably aren't insured, so I'm good with saying we didn't have any other deductions. If I did, though, and I typed it in, it would do the calculation for me, which I always appreciate. So I'm going to hit proceed. So right now, you have a couple documents that are suggested, and if you see one document is required. I'll walk you through real quick how to add a document. You'd click Add Document. You can either drag and drop it into here, or you click into this dotted box. You find it on your computer. Wait for it to upload. You have to specify a category. You can change the name if needed, and then hit save. I've got a green check mark now, and this very last step, you have to hit attach selected. You follow those steps for any of the documents, but if it said required, you need to add that one. The rest are just to back up your claim. Hit proceed, and again, we're brought to our summary. Scroll down, done with Schedule G, and then we go to summary. Then finally, I have that Schedule D, which is my activity-specific eligibility questions. Again, this is going to depend on your specific situations, all of this, but specifically Schedule D, it's going to depend on what you did. So Schedule D, I'm going to hit start just like I did for all of the other ones. See, I've got that progress bar, and there's 2 drop downs that I have to fill out. I'm going to click on training, and it just wants me to describe the trainings that were conducted, how they relate to public assistance, where they were, when they were, and the title of the course. So training example, somewhere, sometime, title. You would use real information, but I want to call your attention now. This has a check mark and this doesn't, and that's because I haven't filled this information out. I may not have that information on hand, and that's fine. You can go through and figure this all out, put it all in, but for the conduct meetings, it wants me to describe the purpose of the meetings that conducted or will conduct. We conducted meetings. Yes. And how many meetings did we go to? 2 exact. Now that has a check mark too. And depending on what checkbox you clicked for your scope of work in section 2, you might have a whole bunch of these and you might have none of them. Finally, you hit proceed again. It does give me the option to upload a training activity document. You would upload it the same way we uploaded that force account document. I'm going to hit proceed, summary again, scroll down, review, and you hit done with Schedule D. I'm going to hit go to summary, and then nice. I was able to do that in 20 minutes. Very unlikely that you will, but you never know. Again, because I was kind of just clicking buttons, you're going to make sure it relates back to you. However, I want to show one more thing in this. So as we were going through, if you had more documents, but say you had to get up and leave to go get them, they would also all be down here in this document repository. So you can click the view and edit button. And this is one place that you can come in and start loading documents as well. So you don't have to go back into each section to upload the documents. So I'm going to go to summary. So I'm good with just leaving this as it is.
For right now, say I need to go run, see if I can get any of those other supporting documents. In that time, Grants Portal might time out on me. So say that happens, and I come back, log into Grants Portal, and I'm looking at my dashboard again. But I realized I made a mistake.
My Category Z project, I can always go back and edit it. I can go that first way I showed where we were on the applicant event profile on that yellow banner, or I can come over here to projects, click on that, and then I should see all of my active projects. If I don't, if you click on filters, you can make sure there's nothing in your process step and no other filters other than something like active for PA. So I'm going to scroll down. Here's my category Z from today, and I'm going to drill in. I get another yellow banner. I have 2 blue hyperlinks like I did before, but if you note, I'm on my project page versus being on my applicant event profile page. So I'm going to hit continue project application. It looks exactly like it did before, but now I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to change this from Schedule G, what I did on an estimate, to say actually my work is completed. So I'm going to go up here to section 3. I'm going to change the answer right here to does the subrecipient want to change the initial project? So in section 3, cost and work status information, I'm going to change the answer from Does the subrecipient want to request an initial obligation for funding of management costs? From yes to no. If I scroll down, this yellow box is now telling me I have to complete Schedule B. All of the other answers are the same. I can change this if I needed, but if I click here, I can say the activities are the same, the dates, that's all good. I'm going to hit proceed. I'm in my summary, done with section 2, go to summary. Now when we scroll down, section 3 does say completed, but now it says Schedule B, where before it said Schedule G. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start. If you remember, this is the same first question in Schedule G. So if I add my contract cost, however much that is, I have to scroll down and click Add Contract. Here's all of the information you need to fill in. However, I'm not going to fill all that in now. I'm going to unclick Contract. It got rid of the cost there, and I'm just going to click Labor, which again, force account is your own employees, mutual aid, prison labor, or National Guard. And I'm just going to type my cost into the box. It gives me the options to download those FEMA forms that we talked about, where I showed you can either get them on FEMA.gov or in the resources under the support center. This one includes the force account labor summary we looked at, as well as the applicant's benefit calculation worksheet. Again, I can add more cost as needed. I can hit proceed. I'm in deductions again. So did I have insurance? I can refresh what disposition meant. Any other deductions, it will do the calculation for me. That's okay. I'm going to hit proceed. You see, I have a lot of documents to upload. If I don't have these at the moment, what I can do is I can hit save, then go to summary. And if I scroll down, it's going to show Schedule B is in progress, and my document repository, 1 out of 5 has been provided. I can hit view or edit and go ahead and I can upload any of the documents this way. Uploading the documents is the same. And I'm going to hit go to summary again because I don't have any of those documents at the moment. That's just one way to show you that you can always come back to your project at a later time. Once you have completed this first section 1 of the category Z, it's there to be edited as needed. All right. So the management cost has this interim policy. It is also on FEMA.gov if you're interested in learning more about it but don't feel like reading the CFR. You can search PA fact sheets. You can also search management costs. It's good information. We have to finish up every presentation we do with this information. It's information we hope you never need, but is there. It's our Office of Inspector General's hotline. It's used to report corruption, waste, fraud, abuse, mismanagement, or misconduct of funds. They have a phone number, 1-800-323-8603. They also have an address where you can snail mail things. Address is there. I'm not going to read it off because I often mess it up. Again, something we hope you never have to use, but is a resource if you do. Said we would mention this again. Procurement is one of the biggest areas that we see funds being de-obligated, and we never want that to happen. So if you're ever procuring a contract, you want to make sure you're following the 2 CFR procurement guidelines for recipients and subrecipients to make sure you're following federal procurement and contracting requirements. If that information doesn't mean anything to you, I strongly recommend you check out FEMA's PDAT, and that's Procurement Disaster Assistance Training. They're also on FEMA.gov. You can go to FEMA.gov/grants/procurements, or if you're already on FEMA.gov getting those worksheets, you can just search procurement. They have a long list of training. It's really broken down well. Strongly recommend you go ahead and give those a look through. Finish up with some helpful resources. We do have the hotline that I mentioned that you can find in Grants Portal. Our number is 866-337-8443. with our hours of operation, and that's for our national line. Just pointing that out because we do also have a Puerto Rico specific line. We're open Monday through Friday, but we have our email support. That box is monitored at different hours. I mean, it's monitored whenever the hotline is open, but you also have some people who work weird hours. Even better, I think, is, well, no, the hotline's great. I'm just really proud of our YouTube channel. You can get a lot of our videos, helpful how-tos on YouTube, including recordings of certain webinars. We have those short videos on how to fill out those public assistance worksheets. You just go into YouTube and you search FEMA Grants Portal, and it should be the first link.